Hello everyone, welcome to the sixth session of Entrepreneurship Academy 2020 tonight. Tonight we will have a special guest from Bangkok here tonight. He is Mr. Keenan Koh, co-founder and CEO of GetLinks. GetLinks is a recruitment app that connects tech talents to opportunities across Asia. Using his network and knowledge in market segments, disruptive technologies, finance, and partner-driven scaling spirit, Keenan is well endorsed to bridge the opportunities, talents, and investment gaps between North Asia and Southeast Asia. So tonight, Keenan will talk about team building and team acquisitions of startup. Okay, so let's welcome Keenan. Hello, Keenan.
Hello.
Hello, nice to meet you
Hi,
here.
everyone.
And how's the situation in Thailand? Everything all right?
It's great. Everything is open up already. So back to business. So it was great to have Hong Kong U come to Thailand a year ago.
Yeah.
I hope when the gate opens, you guys will come back.
Yeah, so Keenan helps our incubation program tour to Thailand before. So if you have any questions and you are interested in expanding your startup to Southeast Asia and interested to know more the landscape and ecosystem there, don't hesitate to raise your question here. So without further delay, let me pass the time to Keenan.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Taurus, for the intro. Thanks, everyone. I'm from Hong Kong. I'm Keenan. And I've been doing startups for over 10 plus years, originally from Hong Kong. So I travel back and forth, and the current mission is to connect our North Asian friends, partners down to Southeast Asia, which I personally believe it's a very big market, very exciting market, but of course is very fragmented as well. So happy to share more on that front. Should I share a screen to kind of?
Yep, you can share your screen.
Okay. So, thank you, Hong Kong U iDendron, for the chance to kind of share a little bit of insight about kind of my journey, about, the good trip that, Hong Kong U iDendron brought the last cohort of companies down to Southeast Asia, and what a success it was, and how can we potentially do more of that, right? So I think today is more of a sharing session and I believe the audience base is mainly, smart young people, founders, supporting team members, ecosystem leaders, to see how to really work together to do better for Hong Kong and for the region. So I'm from Hong Kong, and I strongly believe that, Hong Kong have its edge. We have our edge, and, connecting North Asia down to Southeast Asia or global is something that I do. So as I'm sharing today, if there's anything at all that I can be helpful, my platform, my ecosystem, my network can be helpful, feel free to reach out. Yeah. So maybe I fly through a little bit, just kind of talk very quickly around, let me see, a quick intro, and then I'll share a little bit about my journey, startups, and what it might mean for people like you young founders. And because today I'm representing GetLinks to talk about the people layer, which is the team building aspect of things, what would my experience and take be on it? So you guys can share a little bit on that. And lastly, just sharing a little bit of what is GetLinks' purpose in kind of this journey and how it could be helpful to some of you guys. So my intro, I talked a little bit about it just now. I'm from Hong Kong. I was once young like you guys, not too many years ago. And, started off with banking, and then built my businesses, and then came down to Southeast Asia. And this whole tech boom really just happened about 5 years ago, right? So I love it. I think there's a lot of very interesting impact opportunities around all of us. But to me, sometimes it's three ingredients, right? It's the technology, whether it's deep or surface layer tech. It's money, which is a key ingredient to what you guys already know, the financing aspect of things. And thirdly is the people, right? So I made up my mind that I wanted to kind of build the people human capital layer that contributes to impact. So therefore we built GetLinks, and over time we're in 8 markets now, and we have about 6 million of these tech savvy IT professionals. And we use a reverse hiring model with AI matching to point them to the right opportunities and essentially help them grow, or help the businesses grow. Or essentially, if I want to, make a lot of impact in different industries, then I need to work with smart people, young people, and kind of that's why I set up the GetLinks platform, to be able to systematically bring opportunities to people like you guys and build things together, and ultimately leveraging off whatever I have to bring your businesses perhaps beyond just Hong Kong or down to other markets as well. So I encourage you guys to just kind of think through questions. I was hoping to be a little bit more interactive, but feel free to think about some stuff and we can do a little jam at the end, okay? So insight, I've been building, startups, and I think there are, just off the top of my head, I think businesses are started by originators, right? The crazy, the brave bunch, which I'm guessing, that's the majority of today's group, embarking onto the new journey after you guys graduate to try to make an impact through startup world. So entrepreneur, founders, leaders, that's the originators. And then there's a topic of businesses versus market. And then what would be your unfair advantage? And once you have that, then what would be the team that supports that movement? And then number 5 is the art of balancing, your balance sheet and your P&L. And lastly, it's a little bit of a check-in between the dream and reality. So I can share a little bit of insight kind of as I move through these 6 topics, but today I will try my best to think from a human capital perspective, which is the team building, right? But if there are other parts that you guys want to ask, feel free. So when I think about, us startups founders, right? The guys who originate an idea, right? I think naturally we need to think about being true to ourselves, who we are, what we're good at, why we're really doing something. And in short, is really just digging really deep to really think whether this is something you guys want to do, right? And to think about the purpose and mission is super important, and to be careful not to do something just because it seems like a trend. But I think we're lucky in a sense that the startup trend is already fading out a little bit, right? Not like 5-10 years ago, but there's still a lot of excitement. But I think it's knowing the real purpose and mission that is driving why you're building this project or joining a project. And then the third thing is charm, right? So I think it's a long journey. As a leader, you constantly need to, please different stakeholders, right? Your investors, your partners, your team, your clients. So whether you have that charm to really want to take this thing to success, right? And if not, how do you bring in the right partners to kind of fill the gaps? Organize. I think it's super important for founders or even leaders to be super organized, because you're really playing around with very, very limited type of resources, right? Resources is never enough, but how do you hack, or how do you partner, or how do you do whatever you can to 10x the very little resources that you have? I think that is one of the very charming promises that traditional industries look to you guys to see if you can do it, because large corporates naturally run a little bit slower, right? Anything we do to kind of just increase the odds, I think is very, very important. And, you know, as originators, founders, is to really think about, you know, whether it's 2 to 4 founders, what are the kung fus that each of you guys have, right? So that open heart kind of discussion, you know, in thinking what's everyone's contributing on a founder's level or on a management level, I think is super important, because in a first early phase, you're not, you know, we're not really building a business, right? We're really kind of just building that proof of concept, a lot of iterations. So second is businesses versus markets. My high level thinking is, you know, we are from Hong Kong. It's a very small place. What is our value added as a city, as ourselves, as our network, you know, for our region or globalization? So when we think about a startup, right, it's what is that value proposition where we can do better than others in a local market as a service or as a product in an international market. So having a clearer idea on what is the potential business for which potential market, if you can somewhat visualize that, I think you save a lot of time. And then once you can visualize that, then you kind of think, why you? Why me? Or why that next person that kind of take the risk to start the project, right? And then it's a lot of thinking around whether this is local, regional, or international business, right? We all have hope that it's going to be international to take over the world, but most businesses actually are not made to become cross-border, right? I won't even say regional or international. So having that little bit of a reality check or expectation management, I think is pretty important. And then business is, again, it's runway versus the next rope, right? You know, it's just being very cautious of how much capital you have to not build a business, but essentially just kind of get to that next rope. Right? I'm going to talk more about this, but I think I see on the panel that there are other more, you know, professional, interesting topics about how to build startups. So I think that's important, because money, runway is directly correlated with the teams that you build, right? And lastly is proof of concept versus business. And I think you guys hear a lot about this, but essentially what we do as early stage startups is to try to crack that proof of concept, and then you try to scale it, or actually bring other founders or partners in to scale. So that's the second big chunk. The third part of kind of thinking about startups and building the team to build that startup, I think it's to think about the unfair advantage, right? And this kind of goes with the leaders. What's your skill? Who are you? What are your connections? Hong Kong, what does that have over other people? Money, tech, and markets. So the unfair advantage is kind of what you need to be able to tell yourself before you can tell your new co-founders or management team or even teammates. I think this unfair advantage is super important. And a lot of time, this unfair advantage is what a startup team builds or to validate before they even go find their, you know, pre-series A type of money. Okay. So fourth, I think the bulk of today will be talking about team. So team, founders, important, big topic there. How do you find them? Business development team versus product development. I think it's the very, as leaders, you need to really balance. Is it 50-50, 80-20? I don't know. But don't forget that after you build or spend all your resources on product development, you still have to do business development. So those two core teams, I think, are very, very important. And then it's a matter of team, whether it's configured to do short-term, mid-term, or long-term. So be mindful that different teams are useful for different timings. And then it's a lot about the strategy of, with so little resources, how do you hack, right? Whether it's things that you can buy internally, which is maybe a team with ESOP, equity, culture, or things that you really need money to buy from external sources, which you might think about partnering. Okay. The fifth thing is, as we're building a startup, we need to ramp up the team. The proof of concept and the growth, or one of the key headcounts, we'll be thinking about is the guy that brings in the money. And oftentimes that's the CEO, right? Or the CMO, or the founders. And it's that 80-20 rule, right? It seems like it's only 20% important, but actually it's 80% important, because without the money, you can't really grow the business. And I see a lot of startups kind of spending a lot of time fundraising, right? Because we have to. And so that careful balance between how to manage your balance sheet cap table to buy or to chase P&L such that you can raise more money into it is very important. And hence, sometimes you just got to partner up, right? And that's why, in meetings like this, I need to partner up with all of you guys to come up with great ideas, to have a lot of POCs, and maybe expand outside of Hong Kong. And that's kind of my value added, right? From a GetLink's platform perspective. And then 6, reality dreams, right? I think, for all of us, I think it's very important to keep dreaming. Keep dreaming, because otherwise you'll be chasing a wrong dream, which is a SME. So the dream's still got to be big enough, right? The go big or go home theory, right? But understanding Hong Kong is a very expensive cost base. Even though I'm from Hong Kong, I have to build my operating team in Southeast Asia, because the cost base is just much cheaper, right? 5 programmers in Hong Kong, I can have 30. So price arbitraging across markets to serve different customers is one of the many strategies, right? So I think if startup founders are really going to do startups, you need to think about something big, something possible, something that have an unfair advantage, and therefore creating a venture style growth hypothesis. And then you take venture money. Venture money, especially during COVID time, is not easy. I also have another social impact fund, family office fund. Happy to look at things, but sometimes most projects are not venture ready. But when they are, you also have to think very carefully whether you want to take venture money, because once you start, you can't stop, right? So I pause there a little bit. That's kind of my take on startups building, team, money. And maybe one more page, just kind of summarize my team building. Then we move on. So team building, in short, right? I mean, there's a lot of theory, but to me, it's kind of like your first step is the founders, the brotherhood, the sisterhoods, right? Your core team, people that you can trust, that takes over each other's gap for the purpose of fine-tuning for that proof of concept. Once you have that proof of concept, then you round in another group of friends that might take some equity, lower pay cut, leave the company or do part-time or in hybrid mode, is to use that POC to make some sales. I think it's very important to make sales ASAP. And then slowly you move to 10 to 30 people. That is, again, lots of sales and lots of contracts. Because once you get a lot of sales and contract, at least you can hopefully raise a little bit of money. You can have some partnership model to kind of invest and sustain a second, third layer team that are not doing this just for dream, right? The founders can dream all day, but then the staff, I mean, especially in Hong Kong, it's very expensive cost base. You just gotta feed people, right? And then 30 to 50 people, I kind of think it's already in the mind share space. And then 50 to 100, then you rely on people that believe in the business, the advisors. I mean, you've got a lot of great advisors from the iDendron network, from Cyberport network, from different ecosystems. I think there are a lot of professionals out there that are very knowledgeable. They know how to scale, but they need that kind of first 3-step of proof of concept before the scaling happens. So I kind of see that's the early stage startups milestones that the team, or especially the originators, need to bear in mind in the first day, right? Not kind of in the 3rd year into this thing. Okay. How am I doing on timing? Should we take a pause here, or should we just keep rolling?
We can keep rolling.
We can continue, yeah, I guess.
Perfect time.
Okay. So I just fly around a little bit. Get links. When I built this, I wanted to make the most impact. We have relationships, right? But it's matching opportunities, technology, and funding and people, right? So GetLinks was kind of built with a few friends, like-minded people, family offices, government, corporates. And slowly, I think we're kind of at that. My last page was around 100 people. That's kind of roughly the early stage startup where we're at, right? We've been doing this for about 3-4 years. We're about 100 people in 6 markets now. And we've just recently been invested by Cyberport and also the Cyberport equivalent in Thailand. And, we're working with the Ministry of Education, Tech. And so GetLink's purpose is building this future of work and education marketplace. And today, GetLinks is pretty much a number 2 player in most markets. And we're a number 1 player if we focus on the IT talents digital transformation market. So we've got about 6 million of these great talents, and we've got about 100,000 clients, right, that kind of hire from us in different markets. So I like to think of this platform ecosystem as an open source system. Whoever wants to use and take, feel free, come in, dig in, right? And I see there's a few startups that are, one of which is, in our space, Free Hunter, they came to Thailand as well. Harris is a friend, they're going at it. Hong Kong, Taiwan, very successful, but also keeping an eye out on the whole Southeast Asia markets and whether there's anything they can leverage off my database of clients or candidates. And they fulfill an important part of the value chain of work and upskilling. So I do want to work with more partners, but essentially I think all partners work because I'm covering the salary market. So anyone that will continue to make salary, will continue to have a job, or continue to be more tech savvy, I think that is a potential partner, right? So, being a Hong Kong person, just like, Harris or Free Hunter or most of you guys, is how do we be able to leverage up these type of ecosystem partnerships to kind of grow faster without needing to go through the cycle of build, raise, invest, and do it all over again, right? And especially at a time of COVID, growing and scaling is very difficult, right? So I urge you guys to kind of think about what more we can do. So GetLinks, because we're already largest in Southeast Asia, in the Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, and the other smaller markets, I'm essentially serving Southeast Asia as a whole on one plate to North Asia. China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, up and down the markets, right? So I saw this firsthand because last year I was very fortunate. I sold my other business to, Foxconn, which is Taiwanese, Japanese conglomerate, right? And that's only because they're no longer just competing for large markets in China and, US, right? Europe. They care about Southeast Asia, but Southeast Asia is very fragmented. So I'm consolidating that, right? So hopefully, through the iDendron, through your friends, I'm hoping you guys come to Thailand as the first stop and then expand to the other markets, right? Just like how Hong Kong U brought you guys to come give a taste of the market. I think when COVID opens up again, I think it's super valuable, right? Just There's nothing you can read. You just got to come down, right? Meet people. We host great parties and just kind of meet people, talk, and kind of see what lights up for you guys. And then you guys will come back, you know, to get links, and maybe we can do some setup, hiring, staffing, collaboration type of businesses with you guys, right? So the Get Links IT talent pool, we serve IT talents in a traditional place, you know, like a headhunter success model, project-based placement model, as well as the gig economy Upwork model, right? But the backbone of it all is still the same type of 6 million of these millennials who needs to update the portfolio. The platform needs to serve them to find opportunities, right? 80% of my database, they're not on LinkedIn, right? Because LinkedIn is still a very white collar developed market type of place, right? Southeast Asia, you have great designers. They don't speak English yet. So sometimes they're not on core platforms yet. So we're well covered by kind of international publication. And with this work from home, with this COVID phenomenon, it's really accelerating this whole global outsourcing to Southeast Asia. And that's what GetLinks is going to take over in the next 1 or 2 years. So we work with, you know, some of the biggest clients. You know, one of the investor invested in us last year. We helped them place 300 candidates. Without technology, you can't do those numbers, right? So we are kind of the third generation, right? First generation, you have the job board, then you have the social platform, and now we're the reverse hiring marketplace platforms, right? The more niche, the better. So while I'm going up against, you know, the super giants, I need to partner with industry leaders, whether it's in media, whether it's healthcare, whether it's fintech, whether it's in technology. The more niche, the better. So anyone that can come through with, you know, ideas, more than welcome, right? But I strongly believe in niche ecosystem partnerships. That's the only way to kind of support that new round, new phrase of young founders, right? So they can plug in, so they don't have to build from scratch. That's the idea. So a lot of the people is not on a database. We talk about this. We built a big community. That's why we can acquire and engage better than others. Jobs is only one pillar because we find opportunities for candidates, but at the same time, we need to upskill them, right? So that's a GetLinks Academy marketplace. Mobility is where a lot of great talents now no longer needs to just work in local markets, but you know, Hong Kong people, they're great enough to serve international markets. But how, right? So GetLinks are the ones that pull in all the opportunities, and talents will come in, fill in the profile as detailed as they can, and let the opportunities find them, right? So even though we've done a lot of stuff to make it easy for the candidates or the companies, but they still need to do their own, right, initial work to make themselves stand out, right? So maybe that's a different topic, but maybe if the Q&A comes up, how do you make yourself stand out to attract investors all the way to partners, to staff, still need to, you know, charm your way through, show your unfair advantage, and just be a good person, right? I think that is a lot of arts in that. Challenges, I won't go too deeply into this. We know the details. Strategies, do and don'ts. Again, you know, I can go into this if Q&A, you guys want to talk about it. Tips, again, on the candidate side, on the company building side, I can talk more about it if you guys want. And so that's kind of all I have for today. Very super high level. Thanks to the iDendron team to continue to help us kind of connect in Hong Kong for the Greater Bay into Southeast Asia and beyond. So thank you very much.
So thanks, Keenan, for sharing. And now let's do a little jam now. And then if you have any questions for Keenan, then here's the chance. So now speaking of money to grow business, 80% of importance goes to whether you have the money to grow your business, right? So many of our audience may seek funding. So do you think that Hong Kong's seed fundraising is far more difficult than other places?
Yeah, so I mean, even a seed stage now, you have to split that into kind of seed 1, seed 2, seed 3, right?
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of great programs now that in Hong Kong, for example, grant money, that's giving you anything from 50,000 Hong Kong to 500,000 Hong Kong, right? You know, my thinking is take whatever you can, right? The money are there. They are here to support us risk takers. Take whatever you can, right? But Hong Kong salary is very expensive. Founders need to remember to pay themselves, right? Don't bootstrap forever, right? So I think the 50 to 500,000 is to get you to that 1 million to 2 million first check, right? That's still seed stage. And I think it's okay, vibrant, right? I have a lot of VC friends and, you know, they're still very selective. It's not impossible, but, you know, you're talking about a 5% conversion rate, right? But I urge the people who take kind of the 50 to 500,000 Hong Kong dollars type of guys to really think, how do you build enough for the next round? And the trick, I think, is before you build, to start talking to the people that's going to be investing in your next round, to say, hey, if I get there, will you come in, right? Or what do I need to get to for you to come in? So they can kind of build to that reality of fundraising rather than just kind of build for the dream too early on and take those type of risk. So you can still kind of manage your risk a little bit.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Kenan, I got questions. I see some questions they're concerning about the Southeast Asian market, but we can move on that a little bit. Talking about your story in founding Catlinks, I'm just curious, like, how do you find your founders and any lesson to share from that?
Yeah, so I started this company about 4 or 5 years ago. My friends introduced me to these kind of tech events, which there are a lot. And you just kind of mingle. During the day session is harder because it's too professional. Then you have the breakout sessions. And I kind of like the more informal, kind of the drinks. And so, you know, for me, because I was already a little bit older, so naturally the friends introduced people to me. And I think as early stage founders, they need to be super active, right? Because the older guys are lazy, right? So the younger, more proactive guys saying hello, I think it makes a big difference. So, you know, they came to me and I thought it was pretty interesting of an idea. And so I seeded them. I become one of the co-founders. And rather than just being an investor, I'm always more hands-on, right? So hands-on all the way till today, when I sold my company, I become a CEO, but all my founders are still fully intact, fully passionate, right? So, you know, I think sometimes it's, you know, it's a relationship thing, right? And that's why informal gathering, meet as many people, networking, word of mouth, I think all of these are very important. Yeah.
Yep. And basically you're doing human people business, and your platform has helped other tech founders to grow their projects and their teams. So, and any insight to share when, like, your clients, like, I have to expand my teams from 5 to 10 or 10 to 20 or 20 to 50, any experience of different stages?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of share my insight, and it's just style, right? Everyone's different, businesses are different, but I kind of always think never increase a team until your own team is at a 90% above optimization, right? In terms of passion, timing, right? You feel that the team is tight, efficient, right? You cannot scale a team when your existing team is, you know, running only at 6 out of 10, right? The culture is not there, the efficiency is not there, right? So it really goes to the founders, right? Whether they whip or whether they inspire. But no matter how you do it, I still think you need to rev up the engine to at least 90% before you start scaling the team, right? Otherwise the things kind of break down, or, you know, you're not optimizing the very limited resources that you have. Yeah.
So yeah, it's really important that you take whenever you can, and then take your first step, and then it's like the go big or go home theory, and then just try whenever you can. So if our audience like wondering, for Thailand market, is it the best region in Southeast Asia? And then if not, what do you think it is the best region?
Yeah, again, this is just my own opinion. I think Southeast Asia is one piece, right? Southeast Asia and India, right? India is a different beast altogether. But Southeast Asia, in the eyes of, let's say, the Chinese or Japanese, right, is Indonesia, right? That's the biggest market. But Indonesia is very fragmented, as you guys know, right? It's just very difficult to do business there, even though it's very big. I kind of think Thailand is a little bit more friendly, right, for foreigners. It's the only place that have billion-dollar company made by foreigners in Thailand, right? So Thailand is also closer, and culture-wise, a lot of us Hong Kong people know it. And it's easier for us to make friends, I think, right? So for me personally, is Thailand is a stepping stone to kind of bridge into the Vietnam, also a very exciting market in Vietnam, because Vietnam, great relationship with the Chinese, the culture is similar, and it's just taking off. Philippines is very fantastic because it's an English-based market. So communication when working with Southeast Asia is super important, right? Especially when you have satellite teams, right? You have a satellite team either for sales expansion or whether it's for, you know, product optimization, cost optimization. So communication is super important, right? So naturally, Philippines have that advantage, and Indonesia is just a massive market. And if you don't get to Series B or C, you don't bring enough bullets to come down to Indonesia. You know, it's easy for me to just say, don't do it. Right? So yeah.
We get another question. How about Malaysia?
Yeah, I think about those 4 big markets, and then you have Singapore, Malaysia, Cambodia, Myanmar. I think those are exciting. It sounds like, okay, Singapore is a different one because Singapore, you guys know very well, it's just like Hong Kong, right? Big city. So unless you're doing fintech, I don't see much of a non-fintech angle in Singapore, right? Maybe in fintech for Southeast Asia, maybe. So that's Singapore. The other kind of markets that are big, like, you know, Cambodia, Myanmar, Malaysia, I think against those are big markets, very upcoming. And it's just, when you get to that point, it really just depends on the founders, right? Do they have unfair advantage in which specific market, whether it's their relationship or whether it's the product and technology, or whether, I think one of the key reasons when people come down to Southeast Asia is because you found one of the big corporate to anchor you down, right? If you've got a great solution, you need a telco or a bank, then you go with wherever you can sign one of these big contracts, right? Yeah.
So besides the language barrier and location barrier, so because, like, you know, different location, they have different audiences, different customers. So how do you make yourself stand out to the various people you need to impress? Like the
Yeah, very good
investors,
question.
team, space holder, clients?
Yeah, I mean, product development is one thing, right? And once you have the product development, you get your product market fit, and there's a lot of errors that can potentially go wrong here, right? Product development, assuming you still have energy or resources to do marketing development, then do you really take out, you know, do you really spend money on distribution, or do you work with a partner for distribution? And, you know, I think for most of the audience here, I think it's easier to work with a partner, because if you don't test your product with big enough of a sample size, you really don't know at the end whether your product's not working, or because you haven't tried big enough of an audience size at the right price point. So again, it's not a one size fit all formula, but I really think, you know, you got to do your experiments quickly and fast, right? So that's why with the very limited resources, the founder needs to know how, whether it's organic trial or whether it's inorganic trial, right? And GetLinks is kind of somewhere in between, because we allow the business people or the owners to timeshare some resources, right? So for example, if GetLinks already have, you know, in Thailand, maybe 30, 40,000 companies where I have HR decision makers. So if anybody have any solution that is talking to HR decision makers or marketing decision makers, just do a joint campaign, right? So yeah, so that's my thinking around that.
Yeah, talking up to follow up on your that questions. You mentioned about the market situation in Southeast Asia. We have a questions that I think you are the perfect guy to answer, and also related to the business of GetLink, like the job market of Southeast Asia. Like, is it easy to hire people if I want to expand? Working visa, language, culture. Is it conducive for like Hong Kong companies to expand in Southeast Asia in terms of the job market?
With GetLinks, I think it's much easier, right? Not just to sell, but if you think about it, I mean, the candidates are all there already, right? A subset of them might speak English. And if you can find a project manager that speaks good enough English to liaise with your CTO or project manager in Hong Kong, then can that one person help you hire a team to get the job done, right? It might be 80% as great as Hong Kong. Nothing beats a team that's sitting right next to you in Hong Kong, right? No question about that. But when you can do it at 80% cheaper, right? And if you can think of using your local product development team to also test out marketing development opportunities in local markets, I think that's a win. The logistics, you can leave it to me to help, right? Because we have the database, we can help you set up, we can help you find a few partners to give you a few sales contract. Only when you have the few sales contract, then you should start, investing in some resources. And again, then you still invest kind of at a part-time basis, timeshare basis, before you really commit to a full team. That's why I think the GetLinks platform is to help facilitate founders to come down into market with a full stop solution. Yep.
Yes, I agree. Like, there's no perfect solution for every product. So when we are figuring out our products, the value proposition of the company and or the product, it's like a feedback loop actually, like to improve and constantly test your products and then to improve so that you make the best product at the end. So our audience also wondering, do we need to start off with an investment, and how about working our way up slowly? So which one is the best option to go?
Yeah, good question. And I'm probably not the best person to answer this because I'm not a marketing person, right? But then as a founder or entrepreneur or business guy, from where my background comes from, I always think balancing that financing and that next rope is very important. So when building proof of concept to buy how much traction, I always like to ask the question of who am I doing this for? Is the validation for my product team to iterate better? Is the validation to let my marketing team knows where to spend better money? Or is the validation to help me go back to the investor that I've been speaking to before I spend money to ask him if these results are okay? I will always go back to the third one, mainly because I know I need that next rope before I can keep climbing. And no matter how well we do in sales and marketing, the guy who pays you the next check for investment will never think your traction is enough, will never think your product is good enough, will never think your marketing strategy is good enough. They still want validation with top numbers, right? So again, this is just me talking from a very general perspective because there might be a very, very deep tech company where they don't have to think about sales for a long, long time, right? So those are very outliers, right? Then you really have to go back to your mentors, which there's a lot of them in a financial circle, to ask them for real, not a humble, not a nice opinion, but a real opinion on, hey, if I can get here to there, are you gonna write a check, right? Then that's where these validation on product, traction, marketing, everything should kind of anchor back into.
Yes,
and that's why hence kind of GetLinks is an ecosystem, right? So not just candidates and companies, we have governments, we have VCs, we have investors, we have corporate VCs, we have angels. So it's an ecosystem that match all of these things together, right? So GetLinks behind the scene have a black box. I can see which company are taking key talents from key companies, right? So with my other VC, that's also one of the way that we share deals to fund investments as well. Yeah.
Yes, so thank you. And we have another question about the proof of concept you mentioned, but didn't elaborate much on that. I think the audience would like to know, like when you're doing proof of concept, how do you assess that it's a successful one or just about justifiable one to continue or move to the next stage?
Yeah, this is again my own theory, right? The whole market, let's say if it's 100 people, you don't need to please 100 people. You just need to please 3 to 7, right? It's very important to identify, there are all those graphs out there, right? Early influencers, let's say, to identify the, 5 to 8 influencers that you believe in their opinions. And then you build and you see if they want to use it, right? Because they've got so many options, right? My question I always like to ask is, if I give it away for free, do you want to use it, right? If they don't want to use it for free because they have to spend money or time on it, they wouldn't, they definitely won't give you money for it. So I think the proof of concept, the first stage, really has to be people who knows your industry, have this pain point, willing to give you honest feedback, identify those 5 to 8% of the people, and target your marketing surveys towards those people and incentivize them to give you honest opinion, where those feedback are also very important for your fundraising or for your internal development teams as well, right? Yeah.
So yes, no matter your product is in ideation stage or even prior to investment stage, so you have to ask around like your friends and also your family about their feedback and also other comments so that you can improve your MVP. And then the last question of our audience is that, have you noted any area that is not adequately provided in Southeast Asia and hence a potential area for venture? So is there a new potential area for venture in Southeast Asia?
Any market opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big topic. Yeah, I can talk about this all day long, but in short, just to go back to the last question is, I would never validate my ideas with my family, right? Don't validate your ideas with your family. They will either love you and just say it works, or very risk averse and tell you it doesn't. Go get a real-time job. So families are not your 5 to 8%. Don't waste time, really explaining to them. And I think Southeast Asia, if you really look around, right, it's really where China was in 2000. And if we can rewind the clock back again, and we have a chance to do it again, us Hong Kong people, you either move north and go into China, or you move Southeast Asia, or you can do the Greater Bay, right? So Southeast Asia is a massive population market. Consumer market is only just taking off. So whatever industry that you guys are doing, as long as you think in the needs, pain point of consumers, I think it's massive, right? FinTech, you have the lending, borrowing, InsurTech, right? All that stuff. All the way to, e-commerce, right? Whether it's social e-commerce, or, you can source better because your channels with China, right? Or I'm doing, future of work and education. I'm not even Southeast Asian, right? And so anything that touches the consumer mass market, I think is super exciting. I personally do a lot of enterprise level. I think that's super exciting because Southeast Asia has been built on the back of old traditional families that owns the largest traditional corporates. And they are looking either to optimize with SaaS, or they are looking to globalize, selling through e-commerce and stuff. So digital transformation, I think this time is real. The last round of PR digital transformation is over. I think corporates that are still embracing investing in technology are there. They understand better. And I think they truly honor and the talent pool that we have in Hong Kong. It's a premium. They value the Hong Kong people's international understanding, as well as a bridging or perceived bridging connections with North Asia, including China. So yeah, I see there's always an edge to play for us Hong Kong entrepreneurs.
Yes, we get another questions about the due diligence when you're doing fundraising. Like the audience want to know like how impactful, how important it is for due diligence when it comes to whether the investor determine whether to give you the next paycheck or fund your startups. Any story to share about the due diligence part? Is it time consuming and is a headache for startup, right?
Yeah, super time consuming. Is again a big chapter around fundraising. But I presume if this group of people is pre-series A, right? It's the early stage fundraising. You know, due diligence, I think, is not the top priority, right? I think a lot is about investors are investing in the founders, the people, right? So I think it's a lot about what I said in the previous page about, are you true to yourself? Do you really know why you're doing this? Can you show that you can commit through and you're not just doing this for, you know, for fun, right? People who write the first checks is not about due diligence on traction numbers. I think is really about people and then ideas. Ideas can iterate if the people are strong. Traction, they don't expect you to have in a pre-A level as well, right? So I strongly, you know, advise you just pick your mentors, just like you pick your founders, and believe in them, right? And, you know, tell them what you need and they'll give you the best advice.
Yes, I think our audience questions we have already addressed. So now I'll pass the time to Taurus.
Yeah, I guess the advice is very clear. So for all EA participants, do talk to your classmates and friends for honest advice. And if you want to break into the Southeast Asia market, do talk to Getlings. Okay, so for next question, we will do a quick preview. Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. So for next session on next Wednesday, we will talk about cash flow, financial statements, and all other money matters. So the guest speaker will be Dr. Simon Fong from Hong Kong U Business School. And for tomorrow, we will have two events. The first one is the Hub Prize at Hong Kong U sharing session. So we got the 2019 champions here at Hong Kong U to share his experience of winning the regional champion in Vietnam and also join the London Accelerator program. And we also have the Rocky Fund sharing that we got some Gen Z's startup to share their experience and their startup journey. Also, we will have more workshops and other opportunities in November. We will have the design thinking course later, and we also have the big data workshop very soon. Okay, so let's thank Kenan again for today's sharing. Great sharing and great advice. Thank you very much, and look forward to see all of you very soon. Okay. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care in Bangkok. Bye.